Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Gonna be a scorcher today. That's part of what I want to talk about today. If you live, well, according to the information, the vast majority of the United States, but especially right here in the middle where I live, it's gonna be hot for a while. And they're talking about this huge heat dome that's very rare and unusual. And we'll get to that here in a minute. But we had our live stream last night. My wife and I, we do one every Saturday evening, pretty much, but we do one most every Saturday evening. And it was a longer than normal one, but I think it was pretty good. So if you get a chance to go back and watch any of that one, I left that one on YouTube. Sometimes I delete it, but it's still on YouTube. And of course, it's always on Rumble for you to watch. But we talk about community, had some questions about how to start things, how to get people together. So I go into that quite a bit. And then we finished off for at least the last half hour, maybe longer, 45 minutes, something like that, talking about relationships and marriage and how important family is and how the destruction of family is really a big goal of what all of these elites are doing, and that the family unit and how it's structured biblically is so important, and how we've gotten so far away from that in our society. So it's an interesting one to watch if you have the time to sit there and listen to it, because it is a long one. But I wanted to talk mostly about two big things that seems to be happening. Some of it's rumors, some of it's some facts, but it's the possibility of another pandemic, or at least a lockdown or some kind of restrictions from that. There's been more and more of that kind of popping up in the last few days. I think many of us in our gut are saying, yeah, we expect them to start doing something. Alex Jones on InfoWars kind of leaked it, I guess he said, or reported on it the last few days, that he had some government insiders, whistleblowers, claiming that in recent meetings that they've been in with their position, that they were told to be prepared for, lockdown measures or some type of restrictions because of the increased numbers that are going out there. And we're talking mostly like mask mandates, social distancing, things like that. And we are seeing, at least reported, an increased number of cases. And then all of this talk of new variants and all the possibilities. And then aside from the COVID stuff, there's all kinds of talk of other illnesses that are spreading, other things that are out there, dengue fever, tuberculosis, leprosy. It's just, there's all kinds of other things out there that are getting people a little upset, bird flu, things like that, that could also lead to that. So, I don't have any kind of hardcore evidence that this is what's going to happen and this is where we're going to go. But I think most of us realize that the possibility of them coming up with some kind of other, or just rebranding the past is very likely. And I know that because the conversations last night online was very mixed. Some people were saying that, people are sheep and they're going to just buy into it again. And then others were saying, no, people got burned out this last time, and I think that most people aren't going to pay attention to this. I kind of find myself somewhere in between. I think that there's still plenty of people that are able to be controlled. That even there's going to be ones that absolutely hated it. There's going to be ones that saw through it for the most part, that realized that it wasn't, that it wasn't the danger that we were told, and that the restrictions and stuff were over the top, but most likely will still comply this next time. There are going to be those that aren't, okay? But I think that there's probably going to be enough. There's been enough downtime between pandemics that I think there's going to be enough people that will react to it. But then there's another factor this time, because it can't be identical, right? I mean, surely it won't be identical. And so I think this time there may possibly be a climate emergency mixed into that, which is another thing that is being talked about. And there's been rumors and whispers that the White House is planning a climate emergency declaration. Even just a week or so ago, Biden even said that he did. He already said it. Now, he's an old, senile, crazy man, so who knows what he says anymore. But he said, yeah, I've already done it. I've already done it. The military is already getting ready for it. UN, apparently an insider in the UN has stated that it's being worked on, that they're planning on it. Now, who knows if any of that is real? What we do know is that we're seeing an increased, problem of all these things, wildfires, building fires, illnesses, excessive heat. I saw a comedian the other day. He said, and he was talking about Southerners. He said, for those in the South, he said, stop, sending us text messages every day warning us of excessive heat. We live in the South where we know it's summer. There's going to be excessive heat like every other day. It's okay. We got it. And they're doing that this week. Today, the high for today is supposed to be 103, is what they're predicting. And they're predicting triple digits several days over the next few days just here where I'm at. And I know that many of you further south have experienced much hotter weather, quite a bit actually. So it's going to get worse. And then right now they're talking about this thing called a heat dome. And if you look at the predictions, the center of it, the worst part, is really right here where I'm at. And they're talking for very excessive heat over the next few days, that this is an unusual anomaly, and that, putting out warnings. Is this going to be that final straw that they use to say, see, look at this. See, look at what's happening. We've got droughts everywhere. We've got fires everywhere. We've got illnesses because of heat-related, illnesses. We've got all of these problems, crop shortages everywhere, and problems with wildlife, ice melting, all of these things. And now we have this massive heat dome that's wreaking havoc throughout, the Midwest and great parts of the United States. Could that be enough? I don't know, and I'm not making any kind of predictions, but I think it's becoming more and more likely that we're going to see one or the other, and my opinion is probably some kind of mixing of both, where we'll see some restrictions due to climate and due to any kind of illnesses out there. In fact, this has been something that's been talked about for a while, this triple-demic, and I think it's about time for them to start unleashing that. And so whether or not it will happen remains to be seen, but I think we need to be aware of it and not just so nonchalantly put it off, because that's what so many people did the first time around. Especially in the prepper world, I know, because I was making videos then too. Been making it long before that. And when I would talk about it, there was so many, before it got big, that time period where we knew about COVID, we knew about something going around, but we weren't to the point of lockdowns and everything. And so many people were, on my channel were just like, oh, it's nothing. This is not a big deal. No one's going to do anything about it. It's going to blow over. You're blowing this out of proportion. And then guess what? We had one of the biggest disastrous things that happened to our economy and takeover of our rights. And then also the amount of death and destruction that's happened because of it. And since then, so the possibility of this happening once again, but even on a greater scale, I think is becoming more and more likely. Myself and many of you also have said that you believed that this first time around 3 years ago was really kind of a beta test. It was to test the people. It was an excuse to get certain things in the infrastructure in place so that they could be set up and be more capable of governing a real lockdown. They wanted to have everything in place, and so the last time gave them the open door to do that. And so if things happen that same way, or at least a similar way the second time around, that it's going to be more restrictive, more control, more ability to regulate it, because they've had 3 years to work on building the infrastructure to do that and to perfect it. And we have to be ready for that. I know that many of you, including myself, are saying, well, I'm not doing it. I'm not complying. I didn't comply the first time. I never wore a mask, and I don't plan on ever wearing one unless it's something that I truly feel is necessary. But as we also learned the first time around, just because you don't comply doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you. And we have to be ready for that. We have to be ready for the panic levels. We have to be ready for the sheep that are actually pushing it, that it's not even the government that's pushing, you know, some type of restrictions. It's the people. The people are demanding it. And that's what we're already seeing happen. I've seen countless videos and reports from people, not government, saying that, you know, we want this. We need something. We need something to put on our face. We need a lockdown. We need some kind of restrictions because it's getting bad. It's getting scary. And that is the worst part of this. It's always the people. And of course, the government is just more than willing to comply with those demands, probably because some of those people complaining are on the payroll. But nevertheless, we have to start preparing ourselves. We're getting close to ending summer, and we'll be going into fall before you know it. And we are in that time period of illnesses popping up. And then we're also in the time period of things like hurricanes and other weather that they can say, hey, it's climate, right? And we got this hurricane right now tearing up the west coast of Mexico, headed to California, expected to do a lot of damage there. We've got 4 more potential tropical storm hurricanes out in the Atlantic coast headed towards the United States in some form or fashion. We have a lot going on, and I know it's overwhelming, and I know that we want to tune it out, or we want to continue just living in disbelief that we're not at that point yet. Yes, we know we'll get there, but it's just not ready yet. And I think a lot of people thought that 3 years ago. Yes, we know that they're going to do this we know there's going to be a pandemic. We've heard about it for years. We've heard all the warnings, but this isn't the one yet, guys. This isn't the one. It'll be fine. It's going to blow over. And guess what? It didn't. It didn't blow over. And so we have to be prepared for that. That's part of this lifestyle that you have embarked on the journey. And even if nothing happens, and I'm really doubtful that nothing will happen, we should be starting to gear ourselves up and prepare in preparations of what could happen, because there's just too much right now going on to just expect it all to blow over and nothing go on. So I want to encourage you to start stocking up, encouraging you to do all the things that we talk about all the time, all the preparations, the mental, the physical, the spiritual preparations. Start figuring out, you know, a lot of things have happened and changed in your life since 3 years ago. Some of you have moved out of the cities. What's your plan now? What are you going to do if you may be in a different location and different circumstances? You know, what is your plan? And you need to be working on that plan, because it's very possible that over the course of the next few weeks, we could see some sort of restrictions being imposed upon the American population. It's time to get your houses in order, folks. You know what you're supposed to be doing. You know, and if you don't, you can use the Googles and the YouTube searches, and you can find all kinds of videos from me and from others telling you how to get prepared. Most of you already know. You need to be working on that seriously, because it's possible and becoming more likely that we're headed into a more chaotic fall than we expect. So folks, get everything in order, prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.